So I think I'm going to be mean and nasty though, because I'm going to use the longship for a burial. So the name of this story is Halfdan's Funeral. You know, not too long ago, Halfdan got himself a new longboat. And everybody's been asking me why, because he had a pretty nice longboat to start with. So I went back and hooked up with my good buddy Sven, and he told me the story of what had happened. See, it wasn't too long after they had built the new Berserker longhouse, and although Halfdan, he ain't a Berserker, he ain't all that far off neither, he liked to go up there and party with them. And the last time he went up there, he had such a good time that when he left, he forgot to put the bar back across the door on the outside of the long hall. Now, he didn't make it all the way home neither. He got about halfway there and he passed out in the street. Right about then is when the Berserks found out that they weren't locked in. They got loose and they ran all over town. And they found Halfdan laying out there in the street and they rolled him over. Now the thing was that when Halfdan had fallen down, he fell on his face and he broke his nose. And blood spurted out all over his beard there. And when they saw that, they figured he must be dead, so they had to give him a Viking funeral. So they picked him up, they carried him down to the fjord, they put him on his boat, and they piled a whole bunch of wood up around him, and they soaked it down with oil. And then they took a dog and put it down there by his feet, and then they ran into a problem. Because no matter how much they tried, they couldn't get none of the ladies in Skagnir to go on the boat to go up to Valhalla with him. They kept on trying until finally Bjarki's wife Hildi had enough, and she brought out her battle axe, and well, they gave up on that idea. So they put a sheep on there instead. I guess they figured a girl's a girl. Now, there were two problems with that. Yes, only two problems with that. The first was that they pointed out to them that Halfdan wasn't a Norman, and therefore a sheep really wasn't appropriate. And then they pointed out that it wouldn't have done no good even if it was appropriate, because it was a boy sheep and not a girl sheep. But they were having so much fun they didn't care, so they just put the sheep on the boat and then they pushed it out into the fjord. And that was when somebody pointed out to them that they forgot to light it on fire. So Hakon went back and got a bunch of torches, and then they all took turns, him, Bjarki, and Bjorn, throwing torches out there until they finally managed to land one on the boat, and the boat caught fire. Well, the dog decided it had enough. It didn't mind being on the boat, but nobody said nothing about so fire, so it jumped over the side and swam back to shore. The sheep, on the other hand, didn't jump over the side, but it started baaing, and baaing, and baaing, and finally all that baaing woke up Halfdan. Now at first, he's trying to figure out how some silly sheep got out of its pen and got into his long haul. Then he smelled smoke. Figured, okay, maybe I didn't make it all the way home. Maybe I passed out down by the blacksmith shop, and that's not too far from the sheep's pens. And then he noticed that he wasn't just smelling smoke, that his feet were getting awfully warm. So he opened up his eyes and he saw that his feet weren't just getting warm, his feet were on fire. So now he jumped up and he's yelling and screaming and shouting, and then the sheep decided it had enough and it jumped over the side. And that was when he realized that he wasn't in his long haul, he was on his boat, and his boat was on fire. So now he's yelling and screaming and shouting, splashing water over the side, trying to put the fire out. The Berserks are all laughing and shouting and pointing, look, he's going to Valhalla, he's going to Valhalla, where's the Valkyries, where's the Valkyries? And that was when Halfdan realized he wasn't going to be able to put out that fire, and he jumped over the side. And everybody else went back up into town because nobody wanted to be there when Halfdan came up out of the Valkyrie. And he did. He was cold, he was wet, and his hair and his beard were smoking. They didn't have a whole lot of trouble getting the Berserks back in their longhouse that night. But I'll tell you what, the next time you want to go party with the Berserks, you better make sure you put the bar back across the outside of the door when you leave. Yeah, sure, you betcha.